Welcome to People Behind People. I'm your host, Shehbaz Ahmad. In today's episode, I'm joined by someone I have known since PUCIT days, Dr. Umer Liaqat, now an engineering manager at Twilio. Umer's journey from Lahore to Madrid, from deep academic research to leading large-scale distributed infrastructure, is a story of curiosity, discipline, and global impact. Let's get into it. Welcome, Umer.
Thank you for having me, Shehbaz. Pleasure to be here.
Okay, let's start with your journey from Lahore to Madrid and PUCIT, and how did your journey eventually take you to where you are, and what sparked your passion for computing early on?
Well, I think I started from PUCIT. I would say, in a nutshell, I followed opportunities that stretched my comfort zone, right? Whenever I felt like when I was in a comfort zone, I followed opportunities. And I usually, back in the day, I would say yes to things that scared me a little, right? I want to do something different. So I usually get bored very easily. So I think I studied computer science with you. We were class fellows back in the day at PUCIT.
Okay.
And before starting my bachelor in PUCIT, I studied ICS. It was the high school, or we call it college, a two-year course, and where I studied computer science, physics, and maths. And my interest was not in computer science, actually. My interest was more in electrical engineering and telecommunication engineering. So I didn't get enough marks to get into electrical engineering. So I went for telecommunication engineering.
Yeah,
So
that's the story of many of us.
yeah, and I was really interested in telecommunication engineering. And so in Pakistan, I think we all know about this Pakistan Engineering Council that had put a restriction back in the day that anyone who didn't study chemistry in their intermediate cannot be enrolled in an engineering degree such as telecommunication. So
Okay, yeah.
couldn't get in. So I really hated it. So that's how I ended up, the last thing remaining was a computer science. So I enrolled in PUCIT and I started my bachelor back in the day with you. So I think we studied 4 years. It was really great time. I learned a lot there. And right after I graduated, I started my career at Techlogics, right? And it was a dream company back then to work at. Many people everyone actually wanted to get into Techlogics back in the day. And so that's the first company I started. I was lucky back in the day. I think with every other middle class family, anyone who was from the middle class family, my first goal was to get the first job I get my hands at. I was a 22-year, exactly. So I was a 22-year-old man, taking money from my parents to study and pocket money. So the first thing I wanted to get a job, right? So I think I started applying right when I was in 8th semester, and I had more of a herd mentality back in the day, right? I would do what everyone else was doing. So I first applied in microtech. I don't know, our common friend Shazeb was in microtech. So I just applied there. I'm going to go there. And I failed the test. So I didn't get in. When I almost was finishing my 8th semester, I applied to many companies. And I was lucky that I was able to do interview with many companies in a short period of time. So I could explore my options. So I applied at PalmChip, and there was this company called Senses, Techlogics, and there was one more, Confiz, actually. And I got offer from all of them, but I had my eyes set on Techlogics because that's what everyone said, do it. Not a good thing to do, not a good goal to have. It's a very small goal, but that was the goal back in the day. So I got into Techlogics, and what I learned early on is that engineering is much about people as code. And the best engineers weren't just good coders. They were good communicators. They could simplify complexity and work well in teams, right? That's what working in Techlogics 2 years with great engineers and great mentors. That's what I learned. I would say early in your career, don't just focus on syntax, right? When we are fresh graduates, we are passionate about, solving problems, writing code as much code as we can. I would say focus on how to explain, document, and collaborate. That's what sets apart good engineers from great ones. Right. That's one thing I would take. It's easy to say in hindsight, but I know people would be listening to your podcast, especially young engineers or people who are going to start their careers. I would say that's my takeaway from my early days in career, but that's all in hindsight. Easy to say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is what experience is, right? We learn from the experience.
Exactly.
And And we are hoping that somebody will pick something from what we are discussing and that will help them.
Yeah, and I think the one of the what changed a lot in my career was winning the scholarship, right? So I got the scholarship. So I was studying, and my goal, like many of others at that time and right now as well, was to go abroad. I just wanted to go abroad and experience different things. So I think I got the scholarship to do my master's. It's called Erasmus Mundus. It's still on. Anyone who's finished their studies or still early in their career, I would say, if you can apply, you should apply for scholarship and see if it works for you. So I won the scholarship, and it opened doors to study in Spain and Germany for me and work part-time in SAP. So I work in SAP research in Dresden back in the day when I was doing my master's. It was part-time because I was on a student visa. I couldn't work full-time. So yeah, that was the thing. And I would say, if you ever get a chance to work or study abroad, take it. Grab it with both hands. It's not about geography. It's about perspective. You grow faster when you step outside your comfort zone, right? Especially the boys, right? They are pampered a lot in Pakistan. They go abroad, they go out of their comfort zone, and that's when you learn really fast.
And actually that's lead me nicely to my next question, that having worked across countries, how was that global exposure shaped your engineering philosophy?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So yeah, it wasn't like one day turning point where I woke up and had a realization, oops, but over a period of time, I realized that scaling impact means scaling people, right? Yeah. What was the question again?
So the question is, having worked across countries, how was the global exposure shaped your engineering philosophy? Like you were telling your philosophy previously as well, in the hindsight, what you
Yeah.
think an engineer should be doing or thinking.
Yeah, I think to my so engineering philosophy as well as to the engineering leadership, I would say it wasn't a one day turning point where I woke up, hey, I need to, there is a realization. It was gradual over a period of time. I think where I realized that scaling impact means scaling people, right? That's also because I was fortunate enough to work with some truly great managers and supervisors who showed me what empowering leadership looks like in practice. So in my career in academia, working on research projects at IMDEA, where I was working, I scaled knowledge, writing, publishing paper, exploring in-depth solutions to existing problems, new problems. And then at industry in SAP and Twilio, I learned to scale systems, right? You work and you scale system. And engineering leadership is where these two meet, right? Creating clarity, structure, and trust so others can build faster than you ever could alone, right? So that's what engineering leadership is, where these two actually meet, right? That's where, as an individual contributor, I shifted towards engineering leadership, not to manage, but to multiply, right?
Sounds really interesting, actually. So it's very interesting, your career path, that you moved between academia, research, and industry. Okay, let's move to engineering at scale, because that really interests me. I mean, we deal with problems as a software developer. We do create solutions, but when something happens at scale, it totally becomes a different challenge. So Twilio's event streams and webhooks power real-time communication at massive scale.
Yeah.
What are the hardest reliability challenges you deal with?
Reliability challenge, yeah. So I think working at Twilio, the teams that I manage, they operate two products, event streams and Twilio webhooks platform. And I cannot tell you exact number, but I would say they handle tens of billions of requests per week, right? Billions a day. So it's the backbone of how customers receive real-time updates across products. And we have customers that, from some very critical customers to very big banks such as Bank of America and whatnot. So at this scale, the biggest challenge isn't throughput, right? It's reliability under constant change. You can't freeze a system that big, right? So yet very small deploy carries global impact, right? So a small change can impact globally. So we in my team and overall in Twilio as well, we rely heavily on observability around the four golden signals, right? So the four golden signals are latency, traffic, errors, and saturations, right? So these are the four golden signals we rely on. Every service that operate at this scale, we need to observe these four golden signals. And on top of that, we couple this with gradual rollouts. When you are operating at this scale, maybe fresh engineers don't like it, but every small change gets deployed very slowly in a gradual rollout, region by region. Even in each regions, you follow certain deployment technologies such as canary deploys, where you deploy one server and wait a week before you deploy two more servers, and then wait a week, and then so gradual rollouts in regions and then across regions. So that actually detect regressions early, right? So that's one thing that we do. So reliability for us means staying in. So I tell my team a lot that if no one knows that you exist, you are doing a great job, right?
Yeah,
People
absolutely.
will know about you if you mess up, right? So reliability for us means staying invisible. When our customers don't notice us, that's when we have done our job.
Yeah.
That's when we have done our job right. We were, I think there was an example. So when I joined Twilio, and before that as well, the companies I worked before were not at this scale, but I've seen more than often. So we joined a team. This was a different team where I was working as a senior engineer and later a tech lead, where Twilio's public API, we were operating Twilio's public API, the outer edge of Twilio. So all the traffic that enters Twilio network, we were called Edge, a network infrastructure team back in the day.
Yeah.
And many teams in Twilio didn't know about us, that we existed, until there was an incident.
Yeah.
And then people realized, oh, there is a team named Edge Infrastructure, and we were known. And then I had a director. He's a really great guy. He's a VP at Twilio now, Justin, and he told me, now, if people don't know you, that means that you're doing a good job. So we learned a hard lesson there. Now everyone knows about us. Yes, we are famous, but that's not the good publicity we got. It was because of an incident, right?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, that service, and the ones that we're operating, they are powering all the products in Twilio, right? So we have internal customers where internal teams use us to power their products for their external customers. So yeah, when you mess up, both the internal customers, internal teams grill you, and external customers grill you. What did you do?
Yeah, I really like the analogy you made, that if you're not known, you are really doing a good job, and when you mess up, everybody knows your name. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. Okay, so AI today, there is no conversation without AI today. How do you see AI augmenting, as you mentioned, Twilio process billions of events? So how do you see AI augmenting large scale infrastructure, especially in observability or maybe incident response or optimization?
Yeah, I think we are we at Twilio, we are using AI as well, not at this scale, but we certainly use AI, especially when we are in incident response, for example. So services at this scale, when something goes wrong, when something goes south, many teams are involved. They are collaborating with each other, and we use this third party off the shelf tools to manage incidents. And what you need, someone joins in the middle of the night and there is a long thread in Slack or whatever Microsoft Teams that you're using.
Yeah,
People are commenting, hey, I think this is an area, maybe this is the root cause, maybe this is that. So I think AI really helps there, providing summaries, right? If someone new joins, for them to hit the ground running and contribute in the resolution of the incident, it is best that AI can provide, a context, a summary. Hey, here is the current scenario, taking in from different observability platforms, from people who are communicating and relaying information, providing their observation from a bigger picture, and taking all the logs and whatnot, so they can really help their diagnose and mitigate the impact, because at such a scale, seconds matter. If you have billions of requests, billions of events, billions of webhooks that you're dispatching to customers,
yeah,
seconds really, really matter. And there are some very critical services that these kind of systems power. So AI can really help there, right? Basically,
yeah,
what ChatGPT does when we use it, we want it to synthesize, massage information, provide it in a way that we
yeah,
can consume it easily, or we can let other consume.
right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. You're right. Where do you feel AI is powerful and where is human judgment still irreplaceable?
Yeah, I think we would still need humans to oversee this. I can certainly see AI replacing many of the jobs. I think for my 2 cents on this would be, with every other revolution that has been coming, right? When internet was there, and whatnot, and when videos and cameras were accessible to people, to population. So I would say that for anyone, any new engineer or existing engineer to adopt, right, to see where AI can help you produce better results, right? Don't shy away from it, right? Adopt it, and then you will see where are the opportunities to grow more. Where can you polish your skills more? Where can you use AI in your day-to-day work? Right. At the end of the day, if you have your own business, your goal is to generate more revenue, right? If you're employed somewhere, you want to make sure that you generate revenue for your employer to keep you employed, right? So whatever helps that, I think I'd say that adopt. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. I agree with what you have said. And especially, I mean, revenue is the master for like medium or small companies like us. And as a CEO, you want to, in the end, you want to deliver something really quick, but you also want to make sure that the quality is baked into it. So, I mean, if we are not into, because, cleaning it is a bigger mess for us and we don't know the security thing and stuff like that. So yeah, for me the humans are still irreplaceable. I mean, for us AI is a tool which increases our productivity, which can do our tedious tasks like seed our data, create a lot of records which we can use for testing and stuff. And maybe yeah, but yeah, absolutely still no.
Yeah, I say not just small or medium-sized company, even the big companies which becomes publicly traded, their investors control their strategies, right? So companies like Amazon, Microsoft, even in Twilio, when you are not profitable, when you're burning cash, the investors' pressure comes in, and then the strategies change. So I would say it extends to even bigger companies, not just small or medium-sized.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, you're spot on that one. But I was picking on that revenue point that it's really important for like cash is really important because in the end you get money after delivering a project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for engineers, how does AI shift the opportunities available to them, especially those aiming for global roles?
So come again, I didn't follow. So for
So,
engineer.
how does AI is shifting the opportunities that were available to engineers? Like when we were graduates, we had a lot of opportunities available, but now a lot of small or medium tasks are being taken or done by AI in many companies. So, how do you see the opportunities for engineers changing, especially those who have big aims?
Yeah, I think I would say they are probably shrank to some extent because AI is doing some stuff. But on the other hand, there are other opportunities, especially in AI field itself, right? So opportunities are still there. There is, I think we used to study back in the day, digital divide, people who have access to technology and people who don't have. That digital divide is still there, right? It is reducing, but it's still there. So there are more businesses, systems that are being automated. There is ever more need for more and more engineers, right? So that's it's not going to stop. As I said before, I think if you use AI in your work, you use a cursor, you use Copilot to improve your productivity. That's what new engineers should focus on. And companies will always need engineers to oversee. There will be reduction in companies. Maybe they are using AI, so they don't need data entry operators. They don't need basic things that engineers can do. And also, any company that needed two engineers to do a job can do with one who is using AI because his productivity has increased, right? But they will still need engineer. I mean, you could still go away with vibe coding. Some companies, I mean, it depends business to business. Some businesses can live with engineers doing vibe coding. The others can also. It depends on the business, what business it is. It's management. It's just creating some automation for different businesses that are coming in. That's fine. This kind of company can live with that. But if you are building a product which generates revenue based on the trust of your customers, you would be a bit wary of it, right? You would trust AI vibe coding less and less, and you would rely on more senior or reliable engineers to oversee. Even if you're using AI practices, you would rely more on engineers to less on AI, more on engineers, basically.
Yeah, that's true. As a engineering company, you need the confidence that what you have built, it's not just about working. You want to see security baked into it. You want privacy there, and you want to make sure that whatever it is doing, you know about it. So
Yeah,
it's still there. So engineerings are still there. And I also feel like that with AI, it's a shift. It's not just a new technical language or framework. It's shifting the way we are doing. Maybe some of the jobs that we have today will be gone, but I feel like there will be new jobs. There will be new type of jobs, which we don't
exactly.
know yet.
Exactly. And I think one thing you already mentioned there are compliance issues when you're using AI. There is security issues when you're using AI. So maybe you're cutting cost at one side by using AI, but if when you go to more mature products where compliances are in play, where you can get heavy fines when you are not compliant, you need to hire other kind of experts, security experts, to basically fulfill those requirements of those compliances, right? So it
Yeah.
depends, right? If it's a mature product, you want to grow it, you want to go across borders. There is, I think, back in the day, like a few years ago, GDPR was a hot topic.
Yeah.
Many companies were changing their businesses. So in AI, something like this GDPR compliance and other HIPAA and whatnot compliances, that ensuring them would require some other new creation of jobs, other type of jobs, other kind of engineers, security and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And there was no job as a web cleaner developer. Now, if you go on internet, you will find a lot of jobs that,
Are they already posting these kind of jobs?
yeah, yeah, there are specialized jobs for people who clean the web code. So that's a new job.
I think this AI is really gonna help startups to get off the ground. Right?
Yeah,
But once they are once they are off of the ground, then where they will probably come in and ask for people, experts, to clean up the mess that they used initially. They used the AI to get to the off of the ground and start getting revenue in. Once revenue starts getting in, product starts to get mature. That's where you need to make sure that you don't get hefty penalties because you are
yeah.
not compliant on one thing or the other.
Yeah, yeah. And taking your point, now creating an MVP or creating a new design to test, to do A/B test of a feature. Before you had to go to a UX expert or a designer, or at least develop some wireframes for the developers, what you are thinking. Now
Yeah,
you can actually ask ChatGPT or any other AI platform to quickly develop and test your idea. So,
yeah,
yeah, startups are really at a good place, and the time to market is can be cut. Use that, but again, I think this was also happening before as well. When you would create an MVP, startup will go and create some traction in the market, and once it has funding, they will redo the whole product again.
exactly. Yeah,
So yeah, it's kind of the same principle, but yeah, AI is, I mean, I use AI in my company as well, like in the development process, in the automation. I think the best part is to ask it for small tasks, which like what you want to do exactly. For example, maybe as a I know a class, I know what the functionality of the class should be, or what I am
yeah,
expecting out of it. And I ask it to write me quickly and write some tests for me, which I can go through and then change, rather than having like 50 files created by it that not going to review all of them quickly and
yeah,
understand. And that's really a trouble.
yeah.
And yeah,
Exactly.
and also there is a cost. I mean, I have seen developers, I made a post about it on LinkedIn as well, where if you don't know what it has done, then a small change becomes a really costly change. For example, you asked it to create a table and you wanted just one column a bit. If you haven't understood the code and you are asking it, you can actually spend 2 hours and a lot of company money and in form of tokens just to fix that.
Yeah, pay back the engineering effort with interest, right?
Yeah,
The engineering
absolutely.
effort that you saved before, you're paying it back with interest.
Yeah,
But yeah, as you said, for startups, they can pay it back with interest once they are off of the ground and generating revenue, right? They can rebuild it, they can fix it, they have the money to pay for it. So I think that it's working for new startups, which is good. But once they start to become mature, they start to go off of it.
yeah. So you have grown from developer to a tech lead to engineering manager. What leadership lessons have you been most valuable for you?
That's a very interesting question. So yeah, so I think I have been working as an engineering manager in Twilio. I was tech lead before in Twilio, as in previous companies as well. I would say I think the hardest transition was realizing that the success isn't about how much personally you deliver, right?
Yeah,
As I said before, it's about how much your team can achieve without you in the room, without you present
yeah,
there. So
absolutely.
I would say that I think there are three things, right? So three lessons I would say. Give clarity, not control. People thrive when they understand the why and not the what, right?
Right.
Uh, and then the second is protect focus. So leadership is often about what you choose not to do. I think that's very important principle. So this protects focus of your team. And the third is the lead by example, right? It applies to every leadership role. Reliability, calmness, and integrity. These are some contagious traits. So you need to lead by example. And it's as I said before, it isn't about managing people. It's about multiplying impact. If you have that
Yeah.
mindset, you think differently, right? You don't micromanage. There is this leadership style that I read about it. I took some courses as well, which is called situational leadership, right?
Okay.
Situational leadership is that you identify the pattern and you identify whether someone needs coaching or they need confidence. You need to support them or you need to let them learn the lesson, right? So I think this situational leadership is what I heavily rely on. So yeah, I think that's what I would.
Yeah, it's very interesting you named situational leadership because uh, even as a leader, as a CEO of the company, you realize that like there are different personalities, different
Yeah,
characters, and you have someone you can't tell them, right? They have to learn their lesson by making the mistake, even if you are
exactly.
telling them.
Yeah.
And I mean, for me, it's like almost 14 years, and I know some people who are joining like couple of years, and I know I can relate them to some people that were like 10 years ago, the same personality. And
Yeah.
it's just so obvious, but I can't do anything. I will have to let them learn their own lessons. Yeah. So, yeah. So, what we are talking about here is like a culture in the team, right?
Yeah,
So, how
exactly.
do you build strong engineering culture across distributed teams? It's really difficult in a distributed team.
Yeah. So I think in distributed teams, culture is built intentionally. It just doesn't happen, right? So you cannot sit around and that it will happen. So mainly I focus on clarity, consistency, and connection. So clarity through written context. So good documentation beats long meetings, right? Engineers hate meetings, right? So
And
clarity,
documentation, to be honest.
yeah, so clarity through written context, good documentation going or beats beats every kind of meetings, right? So good documentation beating long meetings. The second thing was consistency through predictable processes like weekly syncs and blameless postmortems, right? So usually in these companies like Twilio that are operating at scale, incidents happen, things go wrong, even in small companies. So blameless postmortems are a key. And then the other thing is running weekly syncs, right? You need to have consistency through predictable processes, I call that. And then the third one is connection. And connection by celebrating wins, making space for personal stories, right? People connect when you celebrate little wins that they have. So I run one-on-ones with my reports, with the engineers that report to me. And I have this table, I call it brag table. And I
Mm.
force them to brag about themselves, right? People are shy to celebrate wins because, if I'm saying, you know what, I created this text box in a page, and it has this validation. I really like it. I mean, it's doing the validation in a smart way. They will shy about it. They will say, "No, this is just normal. Why would I celebrate?" So I force my reports to brag. I literally call it brag table. I
Okay.
want you to brag at least one thing or more things about yourself and map it to one of the values of the company, right? If you're working in Amazon, there are different values. If you're working in Twilio, there are different values. So these big companies that operate at scale, they always have these leadership principles or values that they expect from their engineers. So I ask them to map it to that. So I force them to brag about them. So that helps me
Yeah.
also celebrate those wins for them. That builds connection, right? So helps the engineers to focus more. And be more productive in a better mental state as well. So yeah, these are the three things. I forgot
Yeah.
what was the thing, but yeah, clarity, consistency, and connection. So these are the
Right.
three things.
Yeah.
The
I
big
can.
lesson
Yeah.
is that empathy scales better than micromanagement, right? When people feel trusted, they take ownership, right? And that's when distributed teams really work. When people start to take ownership, they say, okay, this is what I'm gonna see it through. So that's my 2 cents or many cents on the topic. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you actually answered it beautifully, and it's so interesting that I really wanna discuss a lot of stuff. But I will like you to expand on Blameless postmortem a bit, because you know a lot of there is a difference between a product based company and a consultancy. When you are doing, you can do certain stuff in product based companies which you can't do in consultancies, or you do but you do it differently. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
have a different perspective or approach over it. So let's help our audience understand what's a blameless postmortem is.
So a postmortem, I mean, a postmortem is usually after you have an incident,
Yeah,
after you have an issue that has caused, let's say, monetary loss to your business or to the business of your customer that you are serving, right? And usually when these kind of issues happen, we call them PIR, post incident reviews in Twilio. Different companies call them differently, but usually we call them postmortems. And in postmortems, the goal of the postmortem is that you learn from your mistakes, right? You can learn either by blaming, Shehbaz, you messed up really bad. Yeah, there
yeah,
is a lesson. We need to make sure that we automate this process, but dude, you messed up real big.
yeah,
That's blaming. I mean, I'm just giving an example. So blameless postmortem means that you are looking at it as a team. Hey, we dropped the ball here.
yeah,
You never say you, or that's what I mean by blameless culture. This builds psychological safety around learning, right? Team
yeah.
will learn really fast. They will be open about things. They would not be hiding stuff, right? So you will learn really, really fast. So that's what I mean, blameless culture, building a blameless culture, especially around postmortems.
Yeah, and yeah, I wanted to touch it because like when I started a job, there was an incident where I was a module lead in XYZ company,
Yeah.
and there was a team lead also, and there was a person, a junior developer, and the team lead gave him the approach, and the junior developed it. Same thing happened. There was an incident, and I said, okay, everybody was like going on even the CEO was going on the junior guy. And I said, look, although he is to be blamable, but there was a senior guy who was telling him what to do, who actually listed out. So it's a team who did it wrong. And yeah, I faced consequences for that.
And exactly, to add to that, not just that the person you are blaming, it's not just that he's being impacted, but the rest of the team is taking a negative impact on themselves as well. They wouldn't be as open as they would be when you are in a blameless culture. So cultivating a blameless culture, you actually treat every incident as a learning opportunity. So that psychological safety I was talking about is what actually drives resilience over a long time, over a long run, right? If you're
Yeah,
doing one project, you can go get away with it, blaming and whatnot. But over a long run, this psychological safety is what actually drives resilience.
I really like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, you learn it. You don't understand it, but you learn it. That's where cultures of companies matter. You
Yeah,
learn it
exactly.
from companies' cultures. If you are in a toxic culture company, you are not exposed to these good things where you learn. Every opportunity is a learning opportunity.
Exactly. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. But yeah, that's also a learning for you. If you're
Yeah,
in a toxic culture, you learn. And when you go to a company which has these values and with this culture, you really appreciate it, right? And then you
yeah,
make a better decision going forward where you want. I mean, next time when you are evaluating your next option in your career ladder, you
yeah,
actually read reviews and you take cues. You read the cues. All of us go to Glassdoor and such online
yeah.
portals when we maybe not you, you're your own employee, so you're a CEO, but
But my employees goes to Glassdoor.
yeah, they can go to Glassdoor, they can read about Devbox, and they can read
Yeah,
about, and they can then pick on those cues.
yeah,
If they have gone through this toxic culture, they can actually pick on those cues, and they say, yeah,
yeah.
this is a good company culture. I'm getting a good vibe, and this helps them make a decision and pick a good next option for themselves.
Yeah, and it's really interesting that if we go back to our start, the first job you look for is you're looking for money. You're just looking for the first thing. And as
Yeah.
you progress over the years, you understand, look, it's not just the company for money, it's also the culture I like, I want to thrive in. I
Yeah.
really need to understand what the company is offering apart from money.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
and that's what experience is. That's how you change.
Yeah, that's my intention here was also, we always hear people saying find a good mentor, have a
Yeah,
good mentor, but it's not something that a luxury that everyone can afford, right? Not everyone
absolutely.
gets the opportunity to have a good mentor. So yeah, through this podcast, and I've heard many other people sharing their experience, I think people can learn and appreciate. And sometimes you take the opportunity that's in front of you. You are driven by your own requirements, your own passions. As I said, in the beginning,
And
it's
it's
easy to
not a
say,
bad thing.
yeah,
I would say that it's not a bad thing. If money matters to you and you pick it, that's fine. But if you are a person for whom mental health is more important, then you look for some other things.
yeah,
So
exactly,
it's all personal choices. And to be
exactly.
honest, in the end, we have limited time. So money is a big factor, whatever we say.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Especially early in the career, right? When you're
Yeah,
starting off and you don't, back in the day when we were studying, there was not much of a freelancing at that time, right? There
yeah,
was not much of an internet there, that not much, we were still using dial up,
yeah,
which will block over telephone and whatnot. So nowadays, I think the new generation who are studying, they have a lot of opportunities to already start earning when they are studying, right?
yeah,
They can do remote work. They can find opportunities online and do stuff, do gigs that we didn't have exposure to do.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
sounds like we're very old, but that was just a decade and a half ago. But yeah.
Yeah, but we are a bit old. Remember, we started with floppy in for our projects.
Yeah, I know. I think my big achievement back in the day was that I bought a USB drive.
Yeah,
And I gladly and happily had a ring to put it in my neck, show it off. I have a
yeah, I remember
16
seeing
MB.
that. I remember that.
Exactly. So, we used floppies, but I think we saw the transition from floppies to USB. So we're not that
Yeah,
old, but we didn't live through floppies. We were like at the end of floppies era. So yeah, I remember having floppies, back in the day, early bachelor studies. The first few semesters we used to carry floppies, and then
yeah,
it moved from floppies to USBs.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, we are reaching the end of our podcast. Let me ask you one question. That what do you think if you can tell yourself like uh early Umar, who is just coming out of a university, if you had a suggestion for him, what will be that?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say in hindsight. I would say to have bigger goals.
Right.
Surround yourself with people who are encouraging you and not putting you down. Distance yourself from people who don't have big goals and who are not helping you grow. So I think that's one thing I'd say to myself: have bigger goals. Try to don't settle. When you are early in your career, you don't have responsibilities.
Yeah,
That's the time to grind. That's the time to stay awake nights and grow fast, right? Of course, being in a reasonable, not trying to impact your own mental health, but you can work hours, you can explore opportunities, you can take risks. So take them,
yeah,
have bigger goals. I think that's one thing I learned. I was lucky, I would say. I got this opportunity. I got the scholarship to study abroad, and then I got the paid PhD, and I worked in a research institute. I got the opportunities, but I would say be ready for opportunities, right?
yeah, yes,
They will eventually come to you, but be ready. If you're not ready, that's on you, right? So have bigger goals. I would say I would go back to and tell this to myself: have even bigger goals, right? My goal was, after bachelor's, to be hired in technologics, right? That's not a big goal. So it was a big goal because I had more of a herd mentality. Everyone was,
yeah,
oh, this is I wouldn't name. One of our teacher said in seventh semester, I'll really see, I'll really see that you are something if you get into technologics. I'm like, challenge accepted. I'm gonna do that. You can, teachers can set bigger goals. So set yourself bigger goals. Surround yourself with people who are encouraging, who are not discouraging you from bigger goals. Another example I'll give you, I was applying to scholarships, and you know that I don't have like a super good CGPA. I had a good GPA, good enough GPA that was more than 3, and I got the scholarship that was awarded to 20 people in the world for the masters, which was masters in computational logic, and it was a hefty amount that they were paying, that companies were not even paying for as software engineers back in the day in Europe. So I was lucky to, but when I was applying for it, I saw many people, why are you wasting your energy and effort on this? You don't need to go there. And people in Techlogics told me this, that, why are you applying for that? Why are you wasting your energy and wasting the money, it was very expensive to send an application, manual application through a courier. It was like 1,200 rupees. That was a lot of money for me back in the day. But I did that. I applied for a couple of them and I got this. Had I not tried this, I wouldn't have this door open to myself. And being in Techlogics, I would say it was a company where everyone was very ambitious. One thing that was going for me back in the day, that I was in a company, every single person was extremely ambitious. I was part of a team where 4 people were going to Microsoft. They were hired, but they couldn't get the visa, right? So US still has this lottery system, so they didn't get the lottery. So what Microsoft was doing was bringing them to Canada. So they were just waiting. Some of them said, we don't want to go to Canada, we'll wait the next year. So 4 of the engineers were going there. And then I also applied to Microsoft because I saw people were applying, and I applied. I got the initial interview cleared, and then I went to Dubai in a fancy hotel, the first time ever. And I also had the scholarship at that time. So I kind of jinxed it. So I was not really prepared. I was like, I have the scholarship, I'm going to go there, but I'm going to go and travel and give the interviews as well for Microsoft. So I didn't clear those interviews, but I went for that. So I would say, going back to your question, have bigger goals. And if you will have bigger goals, if you surround yourself people that are ambitious, of course, friendships are different. You can have good friends, but make sure that you also lift them. By having yourself bigger goals, you can lift your friends as well. So that's what I'd say. Yeah. I would add to it. I would say that having bigger goals means that you need to have exposure as well. I mean, as you mentioned, if you have a limited exposure, your goal is limited to that. You can only think what's the best thing that is everybody's talking around you, right? Yeah. So if everybody's talking, hey, this is the best thing is to get job in this company, as you mentioned, that becomes your biggest goal. So it's really important, as you said, surround yourself with different people, with people who encourages you. And also, if you're lucky, you will find people who know stuff. And we were lucky, like I would say, I'm lucky, you are, that the people in our university went to big places and we got knowledge from them, at least by knowing them, bit of communication. And also, like from LUMS, I learned a lot. I interacted, and exposure makes your goals bigger. You change. And exactly, I would take your thing where you mentioned that job, and it's really resonates with me that we were first focusing on the job. The day I went in LUMS, I was focusing on setting up a business. So my goal changed because I learned that, everybody is doing a business. And exactly. I think, as I said in the beginning, in my case, each move was driven by a learning mindset. So my career is a bit of a zigzag, where I started in an industry where I was working as a software engineer at Techlogics. Then I got the scholarship, I did the master, and then I got into SAP. And then I resigned from SAP Dresden to go do a PhD and work in a research institute. And then I completed my PhD, and then I went back to industry. So it was more, my moves were more driven by a learning mindset. It doesn't work for everyone. People would like, okay, I want to be one side, I want to grow in one area. But in my case, it was more from a learning mindset, not a career plan. I said yes to, as I said before, I said yes to things that scared me a little, right? So back in the day, I wanted to learn about energy-aware software engineering. That's what my PhD is about. It's not very theoretical, but it's still not very practical either. So I was fascinated by... That's a nice way to put it. I was fascinated by energy. How do you make energy efficiency as a first-class citizen when you are designing a system. We usually design system where the first class citizen is time, latency, and whatnot.
Yeah.
That's what I worked on. So that's what I drive me to, go away from SAP. I'm gonna go there and do and work on research projects there. But yeah, that, as I said, I think to everyone's is their own what works for you. But having bigger goals is a key. And as you said as well, very rightfully so, it comes with exposure. I'm saying all of this. I think many of the things I'm saying, they are very true in hindsight, right?
Yeah.
In retrospective. But when I was there, I'll just take the opportunity that was available. One mindset is that you follow the opportunities that stretch your comfort zone. Don't stay in comfort zone, especially early career engineers or people who are going to graduate. That's the time to get out of your comfort zone. Don't settle.
Yeah, absolutely. And because risk is a luxury, and you can take that luxury when you are early in a career, when people are not depending on you as a family, and that's the best time to take risk. It becomes difficult.
Now if you get an opportunity, hey, here is a very nice opportunity in Netherlands. We're gonna pay you really big, and then my kids are gonna hate me for moving them to a country with a different language. They will hate me every single day by separating them from their social life, from their friends, and moving them to another country. So you'll say no, right? So as you said, risk is a luxury that you can take more early in your career, and it becomes harder and harder when you grow into your career.
Yeah, I would have loved to discuss with you this more, but let's have to end it. And Umar, it's been a pleasure hearing your journey and all this discussion. Loved it, and thank you for being part of People Behind People. Thanks, people, and thank you for watching, all of you.